When working around WCSS equipment, boat and shoreline crews need to be aware of several hazards and how they can be mitigated. Training and spill response situations present unique challenges, like working under pressure, adverse weather, and carrying out tasks alongside people that are new to you. The purpose of this video is for boat and shoreline crews to become familiar with water safety guidelines when working around WCSS boats and performing hazard assessments for the task they are responsible for and implementing appropriate risk mitigation options. When checking into any site where WCSS equipment is being used, be prepared to go through a safety briefing or orientation. This will ensure that everyone on site has been provided with a general level of awareness around the controls that have been set in place, and that all personnel may be accounted for at the end of each shift. The same applies to anyone working on a boat crew. You should expect to receive a briefing from your boat captain that lets you know where to find safety equipment, where you are going to be working, how to call for help, and any other information pertinent to working on that particular vessel. Common visual tools to look for when reporting to the Incident Command Post will be the ICS Organizational Chart and Equipment Deployment Strategy Board. These will tell a person immediately who their supervisor is and what part they will play in the response operations. If you are going to be working as part of a boat crew, take a photo of the Equipment Deployment Strategy Board to keep as a reference. Everyone at a WCSS activity is responsible for safety and is expected to follow protocols that have been identified. This will include ensuring that all equipment and waste have been managed accordingly by the end of each shift. Incidents and near misses must be reported in a timely manner to ensure the safety of personnel as well as the mechanical function of equipment. As with any spill response site, workers must come prepared. At a minimum, they need to be wearing fire-resistant coveralls, steel-toed boots, eye protection, hard hat, gloves, hearing protection if working close to loud equipment, PFDs if working within 3 meters of a water body, Tyvek, gas monitor, and respirator depending on the product released, and hip waders with a belt. Harnesses are not recommended unless the hazard assessment determines one is needed. A likely situation where a harness would be needed is when there is a very strong current. Even then, safety precautions need to be considered, like anchoring the line and keeping it short for quick retrieval. In addition, workers must have ready access to sunscreen and UV protection, and will need to ensure that they stay hydrated and take frequent breaks in shade where possible to prevent heat stroke or exhaustion. Crews should be regularly paying attention to changes in weather conditions, whether they are in a boat or on shore. Clouds and wind, even the feeling of static electricity, will generally provide a good indicator of potentially dangerous situations. Certified WCSS boat operators know that before a vessel leaves the shore, certain activities must be completed, including a boat safety and work to be done briefing. It's important that boat crew members are also aware of pre-launch procedures. Vessel and trailer pre-use inspection. The same checklist is used to do a post-use inspection after each use too. Trip plans must be completed and left with a responsible person on shore. They must also be closed upon return to avoid unnecessary searches. Review boat captain's crew and passenger briefing checklist. Boats must have a minimum crew of 2 before leaving shore, operator plus 1, and all personnel in a WCSS boat must wear a properly fitting Canadian Coast Guard approved life jacket or a personal flotation device. When operations call for the deployment of larger equipment like anchors and boom, a second vessel is required to act as a safety boat. Line management is a critical component in a spill response scenario, both in boats and on shore. Crews need to be able to communicate clearly and leave ropes in a condition that will not jeopardize the safety of anyone in the vessel and allow the next worker to continue supporting the response without difficulty. Some things to remember. The force of the current on the boom will generate tension in lines quickly. Lines must never be released when they are under tension. Use multiple lengths of rope and be ready to adjust them fairly constantly to divide the pressure equally until containment is achieved. The need to frequently adjust line length on a response means that the knots used must be simple. Whether you are tying off to a tree or a shore anchor, the next person to release that line must be able to do it easily. A half hitch is the most common way to anchor a line, as it is easily undone and will not tighten up on itself. On a vessel, no knots should be used. The line is simply wrapped around a post or cleat and the slack line managed by a crew member. This ensures that the crew can separate the vessel from the object being towed safely and quickly, which is especially important in strong currents. Boat operators will signal to you when you can untie from shore and will also let you know if a push is needed. When tying boats up on shore, consider tying around a well-established tree for more friction if it's possible, or use shoreline anchors from the WCSS inventory. A clean work site is everybody's business. When working on a jet boat, it's even more important because the space is so limited. Your boat operator will be relying on you to keep everything shipshape. Be sure to organize your equipment and personal items like water and sunscreen thoughtfully, especially for when the operator is moving at high speeds. When the vessel is on step or planing, ensure your own safety by maintaining 3 points of contact at all times. Though your operator is constantly reading the water body, there is always a possibility that a gravel bar is lurking very near the surface of the water, and when faced with a full stop while moving at top speed, there is a danger for serious injury. Fire extinguishers should be made available in proximity to any fuel-burning appliance like pumps and clearly visible when working near dry vegetation. Shoreline crews will need to constantly be watching for tripping and slipping hazards in the form of ropes, shoreline anchors, steep or muddy banks. Allow the boats to approach the shoreline in their own time. There is no reason to position yourself in between the two. Spill response equipment can be heavy and awkward. Work in teams to protect yourself and the equipment, and make sure that you are prepping it along the shoreline appropriately. Though you may be working under highly pressured conditions, it is imperative that you take the time to ensure that you have everything that you need. Refer to the deployment strategy board and list of equipment needed, and lay it all out on the shore before loading it onto the boats. This will give you an opportunity to double-check that you have what is required and that it is in good condition. Set the boom out in accordion style parallel to the shoreline and make sure that they connect properly. Stay upstream of the equipment as the boat does the work towing it out, minimizing the amount of drag on shore. Communication is critical at any spill or exercise site. Often, there can be a lot of noise that can be distracting, and it's going to be important for any shoreline or boat crew member to be clear about what is being asked of them and how they will communicate with others if they need help. Ideally, the main line of communication between boats and shoreline will be a radio. The pre-launch checklist will ensure that the radio is working, and any shoreline radios must have a full charge at the beginning of each day. In the event that a radio stops working, hand signals need to be determined between the boat and shoreline crews prior to departure from the shoreline. This is especially important in a man-overboard situation, when time will be of the essence. Crew members need to know in advance that if they fall out of the boat or lose their footing at any point and end up in the water, they will need to keep their feet up and face downstream and watch for the downstream rescue team or for their boat to come back and collect them. Wearing PFDs when on WCSS boats or when you're within 3 meters of the shoreline is necessary to ensuring the safety of yourself and your crew members. There are many ways to keep yourself and your crew safe at a spill or exercise site. It helps to remember that even though no two spills are the same, and you will likely run into a variety of challenges, there are some common mitigation measures available to you. These tips are meant to prepare you for when you arrive on site so that you know what to expect and get right to work.